fight like a roaring fight, picturing dreams under stadium lights, sweat and fire, hearts ignite. Evening sports buffet, with the Ginch replay. Highlights, wild scores collide, it's the riot live tonight. Blades drawn, bold on the chalkboard slate, rivals clash, it's a heavyweight fate. Every second pounding, can't wait. Evening sports buffet, with the Ginch replay. Highlights,
Could help if I had a microphone.
collide, it's the riot live
In one of those days, long ass day.
Blades drawn,
Welcome
bold on
to
the
another
chalkboard
edition
slate,
of Early Inning
rivals
Sports Today with the
clash, it's a
Ginch. I am
heavyweight
the Ginch.
fate.
I am your
Every
host.
second pounding, can't wait.
Thanks to the mighty Ginch players for the music. But welcome. Week number 5 of the NFL kicks off tonight with the Rams and the 49ers. Hopefully coming up at 7:15 or closer to 8 o'clock. Jason Priester, the Clemson Football Insider, will be on. I'll talk about the state of Clemson football. They are 1-3, trying to right the ship. Look, they went on a run last year. I'm not saying they're going to make the ACC championship game, but if they can go on and win 8 straight in a row and finish the season 9-3, I think the way this season started, I think that would be a successful season. So what have we witnessed the last couple of days? Well, Major League Baseball. Excuse me. We saw the Tigers beat the Guardians 2 out of 3 to advance to the divisional round. They won today 6-3. Guardians won the first game. I'm sorry, the Tigers won the first game. Guardians won the second, and the Tigers win the rubber match. So they advanced to take on the Mariners. We also saw the Dodgers win the first 2 and eliminating the Reds. They won today 8-4. But that was yesterday, actually. So they win 2-zip as far as the series goes. Dodgers and now take on the Phillies. That'll be on Saturday. All of the divisional rounds are on Saturday. Right now, the Cubs are up on the Padres 2-0 in the bottom of the 6th. I said Padres and the Guardians in the World Series, and they're making me look like the buffoons. So right now, the Cubs up 2-zip on the Padres, winners to face the Brewers. And of course, tonight, 8 p.m., the Red Sox and the Yankees in the rubber match. Series tied 1 apiece. We'll see what happens there. Tigers, Mariners, interesting. The Mariners, one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. The Tigers were the team before the All-Star break. And we'll have to see now if the Tigers can catch their early season form or the Mariners advance. It'll be interesting to see how the Mariners approach the Tigers and vice versa. Again, Red Sox, Yankees winner will face the Blue Jays. It's always interesting when the Blue Jays play either of those teams. Dodgers, Phillies. Everybody's saying, all my Phillies fans out there are telling me that the Phillies have something for the Dodgers. I don't know. We'll see Shohei Ohtani pitching game number 1. And again, Padres, Cubs will face the Brewers. Brewers haven't been to the World Series since 1982. They've had some fantastic teams over the years, but for some odd reason in the playoffs, they always seem to be lackluster. So we'll see there. Again, Cubs up at the Padres, bottom of the 6th, 2-0. Let's jump to the NFL. NFL news. Kyle Hamilton and Lamar Jackson missed practice today. Look, the Ravens are banged up, man. Banged up bad. They're in trouble. 1-3. The fashion that they lost to the Bills in. Of course, they beat the Browns. Then you lose in the shootout to the Lions. And now this latest loss to Kansas City. Their 1-3 record actually looks like perhaps 1-6. Because with the injuries mounting and you're 1-3, it's about to really get out of control, and the wheels are really set to fall off. If Lamar Jackson doesn't play, if Hamilton doesn't play, Roquan Smith is injured, Marion Humphrey, Patrick Ricard, they're banged up. The Baltimore Ravens right now look like what the San Francisco 49ers did last year. And we all know what happened to San Francisco last year. But if they cannot play, but they're 1-3, the Texans are 1-3. One of them has to be 2-3, or they can both be 1-3-1. Maybe they come out for the coin toss and they just shake hands and say, "Look, let's 24-24, and we'll both walk away with a tie." What do you think? If one of those teams fall to 1-4, it's basically lights out. You're 1-4. You'd really have to go 12-1 or 11-2 the rest of the way to even sniff the wild card. Jacksonville Jaguars Trayvon Walker has a wrist injury. He could play versus the Chiefs, potentially. They're going to need all hands on deck against the Chefs. We'll see there. The Commanders have already ruled out Terry McLaurin for their game against the Chargers. That's a loss, big loss. Although they get Jaden Daniels back, but it's in LA. The 49ers have ruled out Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings for Thursday Night Football. Look, I know Mac Jones has done an admirable job, but if you're losing Purdy, Pearsall, and Jennings, this has ass whooping all over it. And to be honest with you, the last 4 or 5 years, the Rams have had the 49ers number. A.J. Brown came out and said that his post was not directed at the Eagles or Jalen Hurts. What else is he going to say? Yeah. I won't go over the quotes because it's a bunch of hogwash bullshit. He's been pressed about what he meant. What's he just going to come out and say? Yeah, I meant it toward Philadelphia and Jalen. He's not going to say that. We'll keep an eye on that. I thought he was gone after last year, to be quite honest with you. With the whole reading the book on the sideline and this, that, and the other thing. Look, when he's not involved in the offense, he just does quirky things. When he's catching 7 for 101 yards and a touchdown, he's happy. He's happy, joy. A new lease for the Saints. They will stay in New Orleans through 2035. It's a new 10-year lease with the state of Louisiana. NFL needs to approve the extension, but the Saints have been at their home for the last 50 years. It would be a shame for New Orleans to move. I thought Bud Adams, when he moved the Oilers up to Nashville, was a joke. Should have been the Oilers. Should still be the Oilers. What Art Modell did with the Browns was a joke. And obviously the Colts back in 1984 or 1982, 82 or 84. I don't remember. The Indianapolis was a joke. I'm too trenched in deep history when it comes to sports. Just like the Raiders should still be in Oakland. The Rams should be in LA. The Chargers should be in San Diego. The Cardinals should be in St. Louis. Way back when it wasn't the New England Patriots, ladies and gentlemen. When they first started, it was the Boston Patriots. But why not just include New England? Anything north of New York. NBA season, NHL season fast approaching. Nikola Jovic, he got a 4-year, $62.4 million rookie extension with the Heat. I think I went over a bulk of what's been going on in the NBA before. WNBA. Look, Commissioner Engelbert is getting hammered. There are a lot of players coming out against her, feel like they need new leadership. Caitlin Clark came out today and says that Collier's comments made valid points about the WNBA leadership. This reported by Alexa Filippo. Filippo. She said, quote unquote, I think what people need to understand, we need great leadership at this time across all levels. This is straight up the most important moment in this league's history. This league's been around for 25 plus years, and this is a moment we have to capitalize on. If you remember, Collier said, and she claimed on Tuesday, that WNBA Commissioner Engelbert told her that Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. That's not true. Clark continued to say it's all about relationship, and that's the truth. I know it's really hard to say in professional sports, but whether it's a relationship with your front office, whether it's a relationship with the commissioner of the league, whether it's a relationship with your teammates, why would my teammates want to listen to me if I didn't have a relationship with them? I think it's the most simple thing, and you have to be very intentional about seeking those out and understanding your teammate. I could go through a bunch of other stuff, but basically this is like high school, middle school, elementary shit. I don't like the teacher. I want to be transferred out of that class. Or I don't like the principal. I'm going to transfer to another school. I don't like my job. I would like to transfer to a different department. Just get everybody in a room and talk civilly about it, the issues that are going on. It's not he said, she said, or she said, she said, or he said, he said. The bickering shit gets nowhere. Nowhere. You can bicker back and forth. This person said that. Oh, they took it the wrong way. No, I didn't. Well, yeah, you did. The shit that never gets anywhere. Just go somewhere into a conference room somewhere. Have some of the top WNBA players get in there and talk to Engelbert and the league officials across the board, and just hammer out an agreement on something, or hammer out your differences instead of like this back and forth stuff, which I don't agree with. I see he's popped into the green room. It's Mr. Jason Priester, but before I bring him on, as I do with every college football. Gentlemen, Clemson University lights on. Now let's bring him on. I know he's limited for time here, but there he is. JP, my man, thanks for coming on.
Not a lot of fight in that fight song these days.
So let's just jump into it. JP. Look, they lost to Georgia last year, but then they went on a roll. I saw a fight in this team. This team has not looked the same since that second half against LSU. I don't know what it was. They were up 10-3 at the half against LSU. Then for some odd reason, it just seems like it's fallen apart. I know you and I have had discrepancies on Cade Klubnik. I know he's been getting hammered the last week and a half across the board collectively in the media. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff. I was watching a couple of your tidbits, and you basically said this team is just beaten down. It's just that's what it feels like. This team just they don't seem like they have any fight, is what I'm saying.
Nah, I thought it was pretty apparent watching the first drive of the Syracuse game. Second play of the game, I told the person on my right up there, I said, man, this just some of these guys, they kind of look checked out, and and that's not to like question the effort of everybody, because I don't think everybody's quit playing or quit trying, but frustration can lead to some bad habits. And I've seen some what I think are some frustrations, starting to boil over at times over these first four games, because it just has not gone the way anybody thought it probably would. This offense that, this was a top 20 scoring offense last year, 34 point something points per game. They can't even score 20 points per game. Me personally, I think Cade Klubnik looks like a guy that's he looks more like the quarterback we saw him, as during his sophomore season. Just the model inconsistency that the guy we saw over the back half of the season and against Texas in the playoff is kind of nowhere to be found. I get it. He's not getting a lot of help from his offensive line. They've been bad. He's had very little protection, but even when he does get the protection, he fails to step up into the pocket. He's not seeing it for whatever reason, pre-snap, post-snap. Guys are open, and he's locking on to one receiver. And when he does see him, he's throwing it too late. But, there's a lot of blame to go around. There's too much talent on that football team for them to be 1-3. And it's not just offensive issues, man. The defense has gotten substantially worse with each passing game. Syracuse, who I think's got a pretty decent offense, at least before Angeli got hurt in the game against Clemson. They had a solid quarterback with some good playmakers at wideout, but they couldn't run the ball on UConn, and they ran it right at and right through Clemson's defense. We'll see what they do Saturday. I think if you can't find some way to just find a way to win, I think this season is going to really spiral out of control.
I mean, I watch, me, I watch college football from 12 o'clock p.m. till 2 a.m. the next day. And what I've seen out of this Clemson team is they give up a big play. It's like, ho-hum, oh, shucks, we gave up the big play. Last year, it was guys getting in people's faces, and we got to, there was a team meeting, and I don't see that anywhere this year. I mean, you talked about Cade not seeing it. I don't know if he just doesn't like the offense that he's in. I don't know if he just doesn't like Garrett Riley's offense. I don't know. But what I see across the board is, okay, we're 1-3 now. The season's probably almost lost. We'll just go. Look, I thought when they rolled out against Troy, it was almost like, oh, we'll just show up. We'll win. We'll give the effort, but we'll win.
Georgia and you had Tech the LSU hangover.
Then the LSU hangover. And then the Georgia Tech thing was they could have won that game, but they didn't. And then Syracuse, which I think they were favored by like 16, it was just like, and I heard you say about I think it was the Syracuse game was when they came down the hill, it was just like it was like nothing. It was like There was no energy. There was no enthusiasm. It was just, let's just get down the hill and get to the sideline.
It was like that, during the whole pregame, when the teams come out and do their stretching and their warm ups or whatever you want to call it. One team kind of had that energy, the other one didn't. Clemson didn't even have a whole lot of energy, like you said, coming down the hill. They looked like a beaten team before that game even really got going. And there were some, they had opportunities in the second half to get back in that thing. You get the ball back after halftime, you go down to score, and it's a 1-score game. Punt. Then the defense gets it back. You got a second opportunity to make it a 1-score game. You still can't do it. It's kind of like, if you listen to Dabo, he said it a few times now. It's been a real challenge for them getting 11 guys all pulling in the same direction. It's like on one play, this one guy messes up, and on another play, another guy messes up, and it's just hard. It's been hard for whatever reason to get them to play as a cohesive unit. And if you sit up there and watch it from up top, sometimes you can see it. Once it's the left tackle misses a block here, right tackle false starts, running back misses a blitzer, Klubnik doesn't see this guy open, or whatever. It's just been it's been a comedy of errors, so to speak. And they wanted to, I know they wanted to use this bye week, and the way the season's played out, it came at a perfect time. They kind of needed to use it as a reset and see if they could get dialed back in. I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out, because, there no Dabo coach teams ever started 1-3 before. This is the first time ever. Clemson hasn't been 1-3 since 2004. So it's been a quick minute. I'm kind of anxious to see if Dabo can get the right buttons pushed, because so far, whatever buttons he's pushing in the motivation department just hasn't worked.
Well, and the other thing is, I know Dabo came out and said they as coaches have failed the team. But look, JP, the coaches out there are on the field playing. They're not the ones running this and that. You've got to buy into the system. You've got to buy into it offensively, defensively, special teams wise. And look, yeah, it's uncharted territory. And I know he doesn't want to hear the word Clemsoning, but what they're doing right now from 20 years ago is Clemsoning, JP.
Well, Clemsoning that term got started when they beat somebody they weren't supposed to, and it looked like they were finally going to take that next step, only to lose to Duke or Wake Forest the next week. So to me, it's a little bit different. But you can make you can definitely pencil in some similarities there. But I'm with you, man. At a certain point, players have to shoulder some of this. I don't think this is a coaching staff littered with bad football coaches. I'll never buy into the fact that Tom Allen's forgot to coach how to coach defense. I don't think Mike Reed has forgotten to coach how to coach corners. I don't think Matt Luke's forgotten how to coach offensive linemen. I could keep going. There's a disconnect somewhere. I don't know if it's between head coach and coordinators and position coaches, or just the staff in general and the players, but there's definitely a disconnect somewhere, because you got multiple people talking about how good the practices are, but for whatever reason, it's just not translating to the field.
Let me ask you this: pre-NIL and pre-transfer portal, Clemson was always on the rise, but it just seems like the NIL and the transfer portal has set Dabo back a little bit. Look, today's athlete with NIL and whatnot, you know how kids can get with money. I'm just here to play football, and if we're not going to be doing well, then I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm going to focus on the upcoming draft and just showing my skills, just myself. So I mean, I don't know what you think about the whole NIL transfer portal excuse.
Yeah, those same guys, though, most of them are draft eligible this year. And if they keep going the way they've been going, they're going to tank their own draft stock. So, that's kind of a slippery slope. And I had agree that Dabo was a little slow to embrace the NIL stuff, embrace the the portal stuff. If we go back to the offseason, everybody's satisfied with the moves Dabo made in the portal. He brought in Will Helt. You needed an end there. You needed a starting caliber in. You went and got one. You needed a couple of depth pieces at linebacker, receiver. Went and got one. There were some people that thought maybe he should have brought in a safety or a running back. But by and large, most people were upset he didn't bring in a punter. And he said in the preseason, I like what we have. I think we're going to be okay. And guess what? They have been. I don't think the portal is Clemson's problem this year. He maybe waited a year too late to go grab it in, and it hurt him some last year for sure. But the NIL stuff, you see these other teams, they're all paying their players too. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Syracuse, a lot of portal players that some of those guys had to be paid. They don't have no problems getting their teams up. I don't know why it would be any different at Clemson.
All right. So then I know you got the interview at 7:30 here coming up. So let's get to it. You almost have to think that the next 4 games they have to win. Because I know they get Florida State at home. They're at Louisville. They're at South Carolina at the end of the year. I know they got Furman sprinkled in there. But you'd almost have to think that they got to beat North Carolina. They have to beat Boston College, SMU, and Duke before they head into that clash with Florida State.
I told myself after they lost to Syracuse, I wasn't picking them to win again until they did beat somebody. But North Carolina's been so bad, I just can't. I'm not going to pick North Carolina in that game. But yeah, for me, it starts this week, man. You've got to win Saturday. If you don't win Saturday, all bets are off. This might be a 2-win or a 3-win team. I think it could get that bad if they don't turn this thing around right now. Because once that snowball starts rolling, man, it's hard to get it going back up the hill. You got to nip this thing in the bud right now. But yeah, if you can get by North Carolina, you absolutely got to go up there and beat Boston College, come back home and beat SMU, and then beat who was the next team? I forgot.
Duke,
yeah. Those are 4 winnable games before you get into those final 4. You get Florida State, Louisville, obviously Furman, and then you go to South Carolina. So, yeah, those are all winnable games. You'd like to see Clemson win. But, man, it's got to start this weekend. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if they blow their doors off. However they can find a way to win, they've got to find a way to win because right now this team is in bad need of a win. They've not beaten a Power 4 opponent since last December. And they've only, you go back before that, they lost their one before that to South Carolina. They lost another one in November last year against a Power 4 team against Louisville. They're like 3. God, I forget what the number is. I think they've lost 3 of their last 7, something like that against their Power 4 teams. That's what I'm calling this game this week, man. To the the battle for a Power 4 win because neither one of these teams have gotten one yet.
Well, I'm picking them to beat North Carolina. It's the manner in which they beat North Carolina. So I know you got to go, buddy. It's Jason Priester at JP_Priester on the Twitter. Beat writer host JP Live at Clemson Insider. His opinions are his and his alone. His DMs are always open. JP, thanks, my man.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, buddy. Take care. Yeah, I just think that, look, every program at some point is eventually going to go through it. Alabama went through it after Bear Bryant. I know Gene Stallings won a national championship there. But for 15 years, Bama was in the mire until Nick Saban came along. Sometimes what used to work in the past, it's a different area. NIL, transfer portals. Before the NIL and the transfer portal, Clemson was always there. They were a beast in the playoff era in the 2000s. Or not the 2000s, the 2010s. But every program eventually has to go through it. Oklahoma State right now is going through it. They had a lot of success under Mike Gundy. And just sometimes the message doesn't resonate. But again, sometimes the players themselves have to take onus. Because the coaches can put together a game plan. Whether it succeeds or not is up to the players. And the motivation thing is a big thing. Again, they look fantastic the first half of the LSU game. Second half, not so much. Then Troy, they were down. They were getting their ass kicked. Had a second half. I don't know what was said motivationally. Stormed back, won that game. Georgia Tech game, had a chance to win. Couldn't get it done. And then against Syracuse, they looked terrible. They looked like they didn't want to be there. It was almost like they said, we should be 3-0. We should have beaten LSU. We should have beaten Georgia Tech. And we should be 3-0 playing the Syracuse team. And it's almost like we're 1-2. We lost to LSU close, lost to Georgia Tech close. We're 1-2. Now you're 1-3. Well, what are you going to do about it? They have 8 games left. And like I said before, they went on a run last year. This feels a little bit different. But if you can win your last 8, go 9-3, probably not going to make the playoff. But at least there's the salvageability of the season. But it's like JP said, if they don't beat North Carolina, if they fall to any one of these teams in the next 4 games, the noise is really going to get louder. Excuse me. I was talking about the NBA beforehand. And of course, my Verizon pad is not buffering again. Some other news and notes from around the world in sports. The PGA of America president has apologized, condemns U.S. fans' behavior. Look, and I'll say this. Stop serving alcohol at the Ryder Cup. Because people are already trashed beforehand. Look what happens at the Waste Management Open every year. People get trashed beforehand, then they're selling alcohol. Guys are sitting, the fans are sitting in the stands at 6 a.m. in the morning. Alcohol on top of alcohol on top of alcohol. We all know we do stupid shit when we're drinking or doing whatever. Just like with college stadiums. Stop serving alcohol at college stadiums. You're serving alcohol. They've been tailgating since the morning. Then you're going to put alcohol on top of the alcohol. Another use, Caster Semenya has ended a legal battle over track 6 eligibility rules. Just reading it over here a little bit. Her lawyer said Thursday that she is ending the legal battle despite winning a ruling at the European Court of Human Rights in July that appeared to have reignited one of sports' most contentious cases. Patrick Brocker, this is reported by the Associated Press, by the way. Patrick Brocker, a lawyer for Semenya, said in an email to the Associated Press that they wouldn't take her appeal back to the Swiss Supreme Court, which was an opinion, and what many presume to be Semenya's next step after the European Rights Court ruling. So that ends that. End of the 7th, Cubs right now up on top of the Padres 3-0. Let me go to the soccer. I will make my picks for the Premier League. In fact, honestly, I think I did already. I think I did that earlier. Been a long week, been a long day. Yes, I did make the picks earlier in the week. That nips that in the bud. NASCAR is down there in Charlotte this week. think it's the road course, from what I remember. Road course specialist, Shayman Gisbergen. We're looking at Danny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, all the road course specialists be the favorites down there. WNBA kicks off tomorrow again, the WNBA championship. Mercury at the Aces. The Aces are favored by 3.5, over under 159.5. And that'll be tomorrow on ESPN at 8 p.m. Again, tonight, because of, now I picked the Rams beforehand anyway, but now that Purdy, Jennings, and Pearsall are all out, Rams big. We are fast approaching the NHL season, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the stuff yesterday, there's really nothing new. Oh, before I leave, well, first, where did I put my phone? I am making my college football picks this. Now, last week I got hammered. Last week I took a red hot poker up my ass. Let's see. I was 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 2, 6, 2. I was 2-9 last week. Overall, I'm 29-27 on the year against the spread. Last week really set me back. Some stuff that happened late that took me really out of a decent week. This week, I'm taking BYU and the under. BYU and the under. I'm taking Iowa State minus the points. I believe they play Cincinnati. The Boston College Pitt game, I am taking the over on that. James Madison, I'm taking minus the points. Louisville, Virginia, over. Notre Dame plays Boise State. I am actually going to lay the points. I'm taking Notre Dame. Taking Texas Tech minus the points against Houston. I'm also taking Ohio State minus the points against Minnesota. And I'm taking the Tulane Green Wave minus the points. Before I end it, I haven't done this in a while. Let me find it here. I don't see it. I don't see it, man. It used to be on my little board here. Oh, here it is. Another edition of
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts? What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
The whole Shedeur Sanders thing, with him miming everything yesterday, of calling Dylan Gabriel being named a starter and him still being third string. The way you act in that situation does not warrant you being a backup. You could have handled it professionally. You could have said all the right things. Granted, you're a little butthurt. But the way you acted yesterday proves that you're not ready to be a leader as a starting quarterback in the NFL, number one. Number two, you're not going to endear yourself to your teammates if that's the attitude you're going to take. And three, you're not mature enough to be in the NFL. Period. Now, if you remember back to the draft, when they did draft Shedeur, you remember what Kevin Stefanski's reaction was? Now, they came out and said all the right things that, oh, we just had a long draft day and it was a long process, this, that, and the other thing. You want to spin doctor it any way you want to, fine, go ahead. You want to try and bullshit the people up, go ahead. Kevin Stefanski did not want to draft Shedeur Sanders. Period. I don't care what he comes out and says. I don't care what the Browns organization comes out and says. They didn't want to draft him. You know why? Because of shit like yesterday. There's a proper way to be a leader, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a pitcher, whether it's a point guard, whether it's the Ryder Cup. There's a proper way to be a leader, and then there's the cheesy bullshit way, where you think your shit doesn't stink. Shedeur Sanders thinks his shit doesn't stink. You know what I would have done? I would have said, okay, you think you're ready? Dylan, we're going to sit you this week. You'll be in the number 2. Excuse me. Shedeur, let's see what you have. And he goes out there, falls flat in his ass. You've seen it time and time again. Throughout the history, it doesn't matter. Remember Jeff George? When he had the huge argument with June Jones on the sidelines, what was that, like 35 years ago, 30 years ago? When they had the powwow on the sideline, Jeff George was a baby. He had one of the best arms I've ever seen in the NFL, other than Marino, other than Elway, Aaron Rodgers. Jeff George had a gun. He was just a head case. You can go across the board in sports. There's a proper way to be a leader, and then there's the immature, cheesy-ass bullshit way. And that's what you do. I could sit here. How old are you? What are you, 12? 23 going on 23 going on 12. Wisen up. Now, do I think they should trade Shedeur Sanders? No. He has a lot to learn. A lot to learn. Troy Aikman's an example. Rookie year, they threw him to the wolves. Did he bitch, piss, moan, and complain when he was getting his ass kicked? No. Was he a leader by example? Yes. Did he lead properly? Yes. He wasn't in the locker room going, the kid needs to grow up. You're not at Colorado anymore. Daddy's not there. Travis Hunter's not there. This concludes this edition of
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for me. I'll be having a show on Monday, early eating sports buffet with the Ginch. But then for the next 10 days after that, I am off. I am going on vacation. We got a comment. Mike Fuji Fiordi Mondo, the Fuji Master, Mr. Fuji. Fuji, what I think about AJ Brown is this. I said it at the top of the show. What's he going to say? Yeah, that was directed toward the Eagles and toward Jalen. He's not going to come out and say that. A week and a half ago, when he was catching 7 passes for 101 yards and a touchdown, he was all giddy again. This week, not so much. We all know receivers are divas, but there are some receivers that take the divaness to the next level. AJ Brown is doing it in a different way than maybe Terrell Owens did it, the way Antonio Brown did it. I thought after last year with all the shenanigans and X, Y, and Z, I thought AJ Brown was gone. I thought they were going to trade him, and they didn't. They brought him back. Do I think he's still going to be with the Eagles? Probably. Do I think he'll still do stuff like this when he's not involved in the game plan? Probably. So many mouths to feed on an offensive team. Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. And of course, receivers, they don't feel like they're being involved in the game plan. They read books on the sideline, or they tear off their jersey and their shoulder pads as they're walking out the field. We'll have to keep an eye on the whole AJ Brown thing. Do I think he's going to be with the Eagles most of the year? Yeah. Do I think if it continues like this, he's going to pitch a bigger stink? Probably. Devontae Smith has been struggling too. You don't see him carrying on. You don't see him putting out cryptic tweets. You don't see him reading books on the sideline. One way to handle it. And there's another way to handle it. Two opposite ends of the spectrum. But anywho, like I said, on Monday, I will be doing early evening sports buffet with the Ginch. And then for the 10 days after that, I'm on vacation. I might pop in every once in a while to, if there's any major league sports stuff going on, that I'll just maybe pop on for 10, 15 minutes, maybe give my opinion. But again, comments, questions, criticisms, they're all welcome here. As I end each show, practice compassion, practice empathy, have passion for what you do. Hug somebody every once in a while. You might make their day. Tell somebody you love them. You might not get a second opportunity. And for Christ's sake, if you see somebody struggling or you see somebody being bullied, ask questions. What can you do to help? How can we get the person help? You might not just be saving their life. You might be saving a bunch of lives. So, with all that being said, enjoy the weekend's sports festivities, my friend. WNBA tomorrow. NFL week 5. Week 5 kicks off tonight. 49ers Rams. Major League Baseball playoffs are in full swing. Oh, let me see what the update is before I roll here. Bottom of the 8th, Cubs up on the Padres 3-0. The Padres need a miracle to advance. Right now, it's looking like the Cubs and the Brewers in the division round. So, again, enjoy all the weekend's festivities, NFL, college football, Major League Baseball. There's only one thing left to do, and that's Dandy Don. You can take me out.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night, the party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.